Harriet Shugarman, who is in Wyckoff, New Jersey, and she is a woman of many talents, but she previous life used to work for the IMF in Manhattan. She is part of the Climate Reality Project. So she is one of Al Gore's favorite people. She has started a long time ago a website called Climate Mama, which talks to all types of people about climate change. And she's most recently written a book that is how to talk to kids about climate change. I guess first just tell us about how your book is, what it's about, and how it kind of relates to even talking to kids today about coronavirus.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me show you the book. Al Gore telling everybody what a great book it is. It's available May 13th, but you can order it now. And I know that it's available from local bookstores, and I would encourage people to support their local bookstore, even though you can also get it online at some of the big online distributors too. But yes, there are similarities in many weird, eerily similar, in fact. So our motto at Climate Mama is to tell the truth, actions speak louder than words, and don't be afraid. And that's what we use on the website, what I've talked to when I give presentations, and what also guides a lot of the discussion in the book. And I think the very first thing is that we need to tell the truth to our children, no matter what age they are, because they know if we're lying about anything. And certainly with this current crisis that we're facing, they're hearing and seeing it from other people, no matter how young they are. And so, very interestingly too, when you talk about climate change, there's a lot of people that doubt the science, that doubt the reality. That's their first thing. Well, or it's too big of a problem. Well, we're seeing that with the coronavirus, with COVID-19, where people are doubting the science. They're doubting the health professionals, the scientists that are telling us what's happening. So we ourselves need to educate ourselves before we can educate our kids. And actually, what I want to do and what I set for you, so you see in my book, I have all these little tabs here. So I put on a piece of paper. I'm going to read quotes from my book. But instead of saying climate crisis or climate change, I'm going to put COVID-19. So many of your children, like many of us, are angry, confused, and frightened. Reassuring your children when deep down you often feel a hollow pit in your stomach, causing you to wonder if indeed you can keep your promises to them, may seem impossible. So take a deep breath and do as you tell your children to do. Take it one step at a time. So as a parent, sharing the truth about the COVID-19 crisis is key, as is sharing the reality that we don't know for sure how quickly actions can begin to help our planet to heal once put in place. The urgency remains and is something we will live with, but it's carried on the back and in the arms of us all. The depth of your explanation on the reality of the COVID-19 crisis, as with many things you discuss with your child, should be geared to the age of your child and to what you know your child can handle. Depending where you live in our country, in Canada, in the United States, or in the world, it's impacting you right now. And similarly with COVID-19, it's impacting people differently, depending where you live, the air quality of where you are, your background, etc. And very similarly in that way. So, but to see, as Paige said, how quickly our planet can heal herself, like, because we're told climate change, problems, we can't affect them. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to have to do it in this drastic way, right? That we're forced in this very compressed time with COVID-19, where we've come together and taken these drastic measures because we're doing it for each other, right? We're doing it so that even if we're silent carriers and we don't get sick or we don't know we have it, our grandfather or our parent isn't going to get sick. And so we've taken these measures as part of a community because we care about each other. And I think it's showing us we can do those kind of things with the climate crisis too. And just that snapshot, as you've said, about how we can see, 20 years they couldn't see the Himalayas from some Indian cities, they're seeing it now. Or, we're seeing water quality improve too. So we know the planet can heal herself if we give her a chance. Seeing these changes happen because of what we're doing to take care of each other with COVID-19, we can do that with the climate crisis too. So there are things we will be able to do that we can teach our children that they can do that actually make a difference. And then we're going to want to do something if we actually can fix something.
I think there will be huge impact on the climate change following this, because you will have so many examples of doing small things, but doing big things collectively will.
April 22nd, it was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and before this, it was never meant to be a celebration per se, although I know we celebrate the planet on that day every year. But the first Earth Day, 50 years ago, was to say, hey, we're messing up the planet. We need to take action. We need to do something. We need to enact laws. We need to make changes. And 50 years hence, the climate community and the environmental community, I think people have come together to say that too, that it matters who you vote for. It matters who's in charge, that they have a climate plan, that they have a plan to take care of people, take care of our environment, take care of addressing the climate crisis. And we're seeing that there's a lot to be learned from what we're experiencing now in exactly what you said, the way that personal actions collectively add up to make a big difference. Because we do things, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but what's your environmental footprint? What's your carbon footprint? What's your measurement of what you're doing that impacts the planet? And that can be really eye-opening to do, and I recommend people do it, and do it with your kids. Go through it. But it seems like, well, if I do these little things, if I reduce my consumption of meat, if I turn my lights off, if I do these things, I will change my carbon footprint. But it seems so little. And in fact, it is, right? But collectively, if everybody does those things, there can be huge changes. And we're seeing that in real time right now. One thing that we can do ultimately with the climate crisis, there's, as many as there are people. For us now living the COVID-19, the coronavirus crisis, the one thing we can do is we can self-isolate, and we can social distance, and we can teach our children how important that is. And similar to, as you said, Paige, there are, things we can look at with them, whether it's recycling or sharing information about what's happening with the planet, listening to the birds and hearing them, right? Because maybe they were there before, but we couldn't hear them because there was so much noise. So connecting our kids to nature, that's so critical. So if you have the opportunity to be able to get out of the house during this crisis, and you're home with your family and your kids, reminding your kids about why we're doing what we're doing. And again, if it's for the COVID-19 crisis, for our grandparents and our their parents' friends, to keep them safe, taking them out and touching a tree and listening to the bird, being in nature, and reminding them that it's up to us to take care of it, because the world, right, is going to be here. The world's been here. Our planet's been here for billions of years. It's going to continue. Are we going to be here? Are these species going to be here? That's up to what we do and how we do it.
Is that people are doing such creative things in this time to overcome not being out and about. Now you have this amazing book coming out, and you can't go do a book tour and do all the interviews that you hopefully are still going to do, but in a different way. How can we get more people to know about your book? What's different ways? What are you doing differently to get it out there?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Ruthie. We are having lots of people share links to it on their social media, and we're doing that. I'm doing online interviews and talks And some of those are new that weren't there before. And many of the ones that were planned, sadly, have been postponed but not canceled. But there are some of them that have been transitioning into Zoom meetings and Zoom calls and launches. But clearly it's not the same, right? It isn't the same that I can travel around and be with people. But as we're all finding out by using these types of ways to connect, in some ways, I feel like, well, maybe we can reach even more people now. And there is a section in the back of the book that's a book club discussion section with questions to ask and share with your friends. I have lots of friends that are looking to do the book as a part of a book talk with their book circles. And there's a number of schools that have, even though the schools are closed, the parent groups with the schools, I've had a couple schools that have purchased the book for their parents and to have discussions so the parents can talk to their kids. And so all kinds of different ways. That the publisher that I'm not sure if I mentioned, the publisher of my book actually is in British Columbia. They're headquartered. They have also the books, and they're so special. And there, I would recommend look at what they're doing. It's called New Society Publishers, and they walk the walk on sustainability, on climate. And many of the books and resources that they sell will help people through times like this. So I feel really privileged and honored to work with them. I'll give a little shout out for me. I had a special honor on Earth Day. I was selected as one of 29 New York City climate heroes. And,
amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it was a really, I'm just really just so humbled and touched by the people that I'm with. And originally, the exhibit, which launched on Earth Day virtually, so they also had to pivot, was actually supported by the New York City Department of Transportation and run by an organization called the Human Impacts Institute. But the idea was that each of us, and there's drawings of each of us, would be on a sign from Union Square to Times Square up Broadway. And you would stop every half a block and read about people doing different things to address the climate crisis. So it's launched online. I hope one day you will both come to New York and we can walk. And a quick funny story, I met with an author of another climate book at the end of last year, and to get advice, he was very kind and wonderful, shared what he had done, marketing advice. But he said, I want to give you one piece of advice. And this is something that actually stuck with me. And he said, don't launch the book during some type of global catastrophe.
He said that?
He said that because his book launched the week after the 2016 US election. I think I beat you on that one. Maybe, or maybe not. That was a pretty dramatic thing that happened in the United States in 2016.
But tie that back to your statement, which is to hear the birds. There's all that noise that's disappeared. Maybe this is a perfect time because you've got a focused bunch of people who are all worried about health, well-being, and caring for our climate. So maybe it is a good time.
Thank you. I'm going to go with that. I agree with you, Paige. I think, you said it, actually. It's the power of the collective and the power of the individual. So I think that is it, right? We all have so much power that we don't think that we have. And we're seeing that where we've made such sacrifice, all of us, to keep our communities safe. And collectively, we have, right? We've saved hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people by staying in our homes and by reminding our kids to stay in our homes. And it's been incredibly difficult, and so many people will suffer and are suffering over it. But we can do that because we care for humanity. So I think my silver lining is that we actually, people, care for each other. They love each other. And even though you don't know your neighbor, maybe now you do, or the person that lives here in my area in New York City, you guys staying home is